Hey everyone, it's your favorite loan officer, Jeff Martin. Today I'm going to really get into the economic weeds here, so please stick with me. Kirill Semenov, a fantastic financial planner here in Jacksonville, Florida, just asked me a great question on LinkedIn, and it seemed like a video would be a great way to start a discussion. He asked, I'm curious, Jeff, as a mortgage broker, what would your idea be of a path to slowing down inflation? You see, while I have a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Pittsburgh, there are plenty of you out there who are more qualified than I am. I would love to hear your perspectives. Sadly, Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, leader of the world's largest economy, has less education in economics than I do. That is to say, he has no education in economics. Well, he was a lawyer for a bank, so there's that. But the rest of you, I would love to hear your solutions as well. So, back to Carol's question. If I think that to find a path to slowing inflation, one must first look at the root causes of that inflation. First cause was supply chain disruption, and while that's been largely brought back to normal, some issues still persist there. In my opinion, most of this path to high inflation was brought about by a lack of patience, a lack of a clear pathway near the onset of the pandemic. While the federal government was trying to help families cope with state and local level lockdowns and their effect on people's livelihoods, the Fed was also taking strong action. Both caused incredible inflationary pressures. You'll always have inflation when income increases. So, the government at the federal level was passing out cash in ways never seen before in modern times. That will cause inflation. This part isn't my opinion. While doing that, they were also pumping cash into small and medium sized businesses. Again, inflationary pressure. Businesses large and small were struggling to find enough employees when it came time to reopen. Particularly difficult to find were employees for in person jobs. This supply and demand curve for employees caused a shift in wages. Those wages were headed much higher. For example, the average fast food worker in 2019 made just under $11 an hour, right before the pandemic. In 2023, that's risen to $18 an hour for the same job. The value of their work compared to other careers has, of course, not changed. So, whether correct or not, as a society, we value the work of electricians, plumbers, doctors, and nurses, for example, more than we do that of the people making your burger at Whataburger. This means that other wages will also increase as a result. Because who's going to take a job, a very stressful job, at an ER as a nurse if he or she can make just as much working in a less stressful environment with better hours? So that's why wages go up. All that to say this, just like the federal government was handing out cash and causing inflation, increased wages were also putting more money in the pockets of nearly every working American. Again, adding more cash to the system will cause inflation. That's not my opinion, that's scientific fact. The timing is also important. People had more cash while simultaneously the supply chain issues caused a shortfall of goods available for purchase with said cash. It was like pouring gasoline on the fire. We were set to have some significant inflation already. Now enter the Fed, who seemed to not be really following along with what the government was doing to prop up the economy, and Powell wanted to get in on the act too. It was common over history for the Fed to purchase MBS, mortgage-backed securities. But what the heck are MBS? When a mortgage lender closes your mortgage, they're putting out the full amount of the mortgage of the funds on closing day. So they're spending their own money on closing day to fund the seller and the agents and all the closing costs and all that stuff. That's their own money that they're putting out aside from what you're putting in the system. The whole loan amount goes out on that day. But they don't have infinite funds, so they package those loans into MBS and sell them to investors on the open market just like any other bond. When purchased by an investor, the bank gets their money back and the client pays the investor back over the term of their loan. It's not quite that simple, but that description will do the trick for the purposes here. This enables the lender to do more loans for more clients. The Fed purchased over $100 billion in MBS per month through most of 2020 and 2021 to prop up the mortgage market. For a time when other investors saw too much risk in the real estate market, the MBS, the Fed's stepping in to help probably made some sense. Most people I talk to, however, feel like the Fed probably got in too hard, too fast, and stayed in for too long. If you got a mortgage in 2020 or 2021, you were the beneficiary of this action, so be thankful for your rate in the twos or the threes. That's not happening today and might not ever happen again. But therein lies the problem. The federal government pumping money into the economy started the fire. The employment market provided more fuel. The supply chain was causing a shortage on everything on the supply side, but every competent economist could see that we're already set up for serious inflation if something wasn't done. But what happened instead? The Fed brought a tanker truck of gasoline to the bonfire. Not only were they buying MBS way above any conceivable historic pace, they were also lowering the federal funds rate, the rate used for banks to do ultra short term loans bank to bank at the same time. So, well, so far, all I've really done here is to lay out how inflation ended up getting out of hand. With a competent economist at the helm and better communication between government bodies and the Fed, we'd have had a better forward vision, an understanding of how current actions would affect the future economy, that economy that we're living in today. So, what would I do to combat inflation if I were the Fed chair? Well, let's assume that I became Fed chair after the damage had already been done. First, I'd have patience, and I'd do a better job of communicating in a way that the average American can understand. You can't bring inflation down from 8% to 2% overnight without causing massive pain. And in this case, because of the underlying causes, the Fed can't do this job alone. The only tool to realistically available to them is the overnight funds rate. And that does little for wages and unemployment and nothing at all about the supply chain. So those problems would still persist. Here's an analogy for you. Let's say your computer screen has started flickering and you'd like to fix it, but the only tool in your toolbox is a hammer. Yes, the hammer will end the flickering, but there will be side effects. Same thing here. They can raise the overnight funds rate and stop buying MBS altogether, but the side effects are serious and broad, and that's what we're seeing today. So I'm not going to use that hammer very much. Yes, I'd have absolutely raised the federal funds rate. I wish that they wouldn't have brought it so low to begin with, but they did, so that's water under the bridge. Probably would have even raised it significantly. But these actions take time to see results, so I'd be patient and measured, be more consultative, have listening sessions with industries that will be impacted the most, hold town halls with actual Americans in big cities and small towns, communicate that this is going to take some time to get under control, and look forward, much farther forward than is currently being looked at. Take smaller actions and let them have time to simmer before taking the next action. I want to see the real data on the effects of my first action before deciding when and whether to act next. Finally, have far better communication with government entities. Are we looking at upcoming wage increases? What kinds of government spending are likely to increase in the next 12 to 24 months, and which are likely to decrease? Well, okay, that's a pipe dream, the government decreasing spending, but I digress. Take all this into consideration before I take action. Make sure the decisions I and my Board of Governors take are in step with the foreseeable government economic actions. Now, these are just my ideas. I'd love to hear yours. Let's have a good discussion in the comments, please. And thank you all for watching. I hope this has been informative for you. It's been fun for me to think and write out so that I can consider kind of all the implications. I've had most of these ideas in my head for quite some time, and I finally put pen to paper and made this happen. So please comment, get the discussion moving. I'd love to hear from you.